Hi, my name's Mark Hayward. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, and I welcome you. I want to talk about today about situations which are outside of your control, and that there might be bad situations. And it's also how you respond to that. So, the most important thing at the moment with everyone who is going through a bad time is two things. Everyone goes through bad times. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Elon Musk, who has just lost one of his roles at Tesla, and it doesn't matter if you are an associate in a company. You will go through bad times. And the most important thing about going through bad times is how you respond to it. So just going to talk about the bad times first of all, and then it's important to really emphasize a bit about responding to those bad times. So first of all, as I said, everyone goes through bad times. Everyone goes through a bad spell, and that can be down to outside sources. So that might be girlfriend leaving you, wife leaving you, bereavement, death. It might be having an argument with your best mate, whatever that is. So there could be outside forces which impact that, and that might take you into work in a bad mood, or just not really up for it, and that can lead to errors and bad mistakes. Now, these are the sorts of things which I'm not going to go on about, because I think everyone knows that even if you're having a bad time in a personal sense, you shouldn't take that to work. Everyone has these sorts of experiences, and having a certain element, I say detachment, but it's a certain element of composure is incredibly important, and you really shouldn't be letting your mouth go off, or criticising, or arguing. Oh God, I heard just people that actually argue in the office, I think, is a really, really bad thing to do. There should be an element of professionalism, whatever you're experiencing, whether it's bad from an internal or whether it's external. So I would say that it's always important to keep professionalism, a certain element of composure, and a calmness. People who get overexcited, overcommitted, overzealous, do too much, and can cause conflict, or conflict is a really, really bad thing for a corporate environment. You're expected, and this is not just corporate environments. I think with startups there's more scope for sort of bad behaviour, because there's less people and there's less structure. But equally, I think there is an element of that you should keep professionalism, and if you're in the corporate environment, it's incredibly important that you maintain that, because any sort of arguments can have massive effects on your future at that company, your promotion. So as I say, external factors will always happen, but it's incredibly important to be able to keep an element of professionalism. So that is the external factors. There are also internal factors, i.e. in the company, and these can be down to a client, something happening internally within your company that has made a mistake, that equally could be you making a mistake, equally it could be a colleague, or someone that is making a bad relationship with your client, perhaps. There's any number of things that can cause bad feelings, and often if they're with a client, it can cause massive consequences. So what those things, there's many and a sundry of those things that can happen. But what I wanted to just emphasize was that the most important thing about going through internal or external bad things is how you respond to it. So we all accept that a client's going to make a judgment which is not necessarily going to be best for you, and they might have a perception of something that is not working, for example. But it's how you respond to it. It's how you change things around. It's how you are able to move things in a different direction. Because often some of these relationships can be happening over a period of time, and they're not necessarily always one thing that does it. There's usually one thing that breaks the camel's back, as the saying goes. But essentially, it's a number of consecutive things that happen, which can cause a lot of problems. And once you've lost confidence of the client, then you are in a bad place. But it shouldn't be game over. It really should be how you deal with those situations, whether you have to project manage a crisis. So you often, these sorts of crisis zones, there's someone to manage it. There's maybe your boss who gets involved to show the seriousness of the situation. But if you are experiencing that, then you should be working out how the best way to resolve and restore confidence for the client on you. So it's not just one thing that leads you to that point, but equally it's not just one thing that changes those emotions, those feelings about you and your company. Sometimes you can make quite drastic changes, maybe to the team or the way things are done, maybe a process, to try and jolt the client into that you're serious about what's happened, and you found a better way of doing things, whether it's a personnel or whether it's a process. This equally is a very, very good thing to do. This is really, really crucial, because it can really make a difference. If you're saying that the processes that you were doing previously were wrong and that's why we've had the mistakes, making a drastic or a big change can be a really good message. But the killer point is, if mistakes are still made once you've made this big change, can lead to a deterioration really badly. But equally, if you're making such a drastic change, then you must be accepting that the process mustn't be working, and therefore you do need to be able to make the right choices on what that team actually is. So I would say, it's really, really important that you're able to make it right. And if you are going to make it right, then you need to make really good decisions, calm, collected decisions on what you're going to do. And once you do it, you'll be committed to it, and pass a good message on from there. Equally, there might be, as I said, a crisis zone, and that might be a particular period of time where you might have to be very attentive to the client, maybe daily calls to ensure things are working correctly. So it's a really big business, and it's a lot about how you respond to it, and lots of feedback can come back with that you made a really good change, a game changer. It could be that you consistently delivered over a period of time. Both things are equally the right way of being able to deal with these things. Equally, when you're in this sort of situation, I would say equally it would be worth consulting with somebody. It's always worth having someone maybe a little bit more senior to you, whatever grade you are, on how to deal with a client, and that might be them turning up for the calls or the meetings. Equally, it might be just as a sort of confidant to work out the way to be able to deliver this preferred new way. So incredibly important to respond positively. Equally, I think an attitude is important to keep a positive mental attitude on these sorts of situations. Nothing is necessarily an all-over situation. It's all about how you're responding to it. So I would say keep calm, keep collected, keep working, keep monitoring. keep responding positively to those situations, and you can get in a better place. It's not necessarily a short, easy task. It can be a long slog to be able to get that confidence back in the client, but it is equally something that obviously you don't want to lose a client, so it's equally worthwhile investing in that, whether that is consulting with people, with your mentor, with your boss. Equally is making clear decisions and being able to deliver the right course of action after those mistakes have been made, or whatever it is. So that's it from today. Please check me out on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify. Please leave a response. I'd love to hear your comments, your feedback on my podcast. You can check me out on Twitter on Mark Hayward, and there's some YouTube videos as well if you want to check them out as well. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.